Chapter 15, question 11, asks you to describe the similarities and differences between triacylglycerols and glycerophospholipids. Okay, so triacylglycerols, that is a big fancy name for triglycerides. That's how you'd see those referred to in a nutrition class or in an anatomy and physiology class. Glycerophospholipids, that's another big fancy name. Normally in an anatomy and physiology class or a biology class, those would just be called phospholipids. Okay, so they want to know the similarities and differences for each of these things. And I think those can be seen most easily in a picture, so I'm going to draw a picture for each of these, a sort of schematic of what they look like. And then I'll list the similarities and differences underneath the schematic that you can refer to. So triacylglycerols, those are aka triglycerides on the one hand, and on the other hand we have glycerophospholipids, aka phospholipids. All right. Now in both of these, you have a glycerol backbone. It sort of acts like a bookshelf that you can stack other molecules on. So you have glycerol. And then this glycerol has three sort of shelves that you can put molecules on. In both of these, two of the molecules are fatty acids. Fatty acid in triacylglycerols, and in phospholipids, two of them, again, fatty acids. So fatty acid. So far, they look like the same exact molecule to me. The difference comes in the third thing that's attached. In a triglyceride, the third thing is the same as the other two. It's a fatty acid. A little anticlimactic there. But in a phospholipid, the third thing is first a phosphate. Remember, that's one of those three really important polyatomic ions you definitely want to know. You can see here it's in lipids. It also connects each sugar in DNA, and it's in ATP, adenosine triphosphate. It's just a really profoundly important molecule, PO4. So it's a phosphate connected to what's called an amino alcohol. So an amino alcohol. That's a molecule that has an amine. Remember, that's a nitrogen with all single bonds, an amine, and also an alcohol, so OH on it. That's an alcohol. So if a molecule has both of those on it, it's an amino alcohol. That's what you'd have in on that third shelf in a phospholipid. And the thing to notice about this is that this third shelf here is really polar. So in terms of polarity, you would have lots of nonpolar. So anything in brown here is going to be nonpolar. In the case of a triglyceride, the whole thing is nonpolar. But in a phospholipid, the fatty acids and the glycerol are pretty nonpolar, but the amino alcohol has both a nitrogen and an oxygen, and then the phosphate has 4 oxygens. That's really, really polar. And so this one branch here is going to want to mix with water, whereas the rest of the molecule won't. Okay, so now that we have a picture here, excuse me, let's just write out the similarities and differences, because that's what the question is really asking for. The similarity is that both triglycerides and phospholipids have glycerol and 2 fatty acids. That's the similarities. They both have glycerol, they both have 2 fatty acids. The differences come with that third branch. So triglycerides have a third fatty acid, whereas phospholipids have a phosphate and an amino alcohol. An amino alcohol. So those are the similarities and differences between triacylglycerols or triglycerides and phospholipids.